All right, welcome everybody to another edition of the One Big Happy Business Podcast. Today I'm joined by Rufus Judson, who is the CEO of Pike Construction Services. Good friend of mine. I'm very excited to have him on. We've been talking about this for a while, and we're finally able to make it happen. So, Rufus, welcome into the podcast studio. How are you feeling today?
I'm good. I feel great.
Ready to rock and roll?
How are you doing? You were out drinking with my father last night.
I was actually out with your father last night. I wouldn't say it was drinking, but we definitely had some dinner.
Okay.
Maybe a glass of wine, but certainly didn't overindulge with your father and his peers.
Smart.
So listen, I'd love to get started with the story of Pike Construction Services.
Sure.
1873 was founded by, I guess that would have been your great
That's right.
grandfather. And incredible legacy. You're at the helm now, and I'd love you to tell me and the rest of the audience a little bit about Pike Construction and how it got started. We've got this wonderful book here. I'll share with everybody along the way here. I got some notes and stuff like that. But
Real tabs.
ruler coded, real tabs, color coded, and we're gonna get started.
No, that's great. I'm glad somebody read it. That's good to see. This family business that I'm a part of is I am the fifth generation, and it's we're a construction business based in upstate New York, specifically Rochester, New York. My great grandfather, John Barnabas Pike, was a Dutch immigrant. Worked his way up the, frankly, Erie Canal once he got to the U.S. and ended up deciding to settle in Brighton. There was a lot of Dutch settlement in Brighton, New York at the time, and it was very much tied to the Erie Canal and the town being an Erie Canal town. He was a successful entrepreneur. There's a number of interesting projects he did around town, starting with, just as a carpenter and working his way into substantial construction projects, big projects. There was the narrative in our family for years was that he was kind of had done smaller projects, and then the next generation did bigger, and they both did great things. But the first generation was quite an interesting project, or quite an interesting builder. He did a number of different projects. Most of them, to be candid, are torn down now. It's just long enough away, like that they've been torn down to
150 years old.
So there were like the Rochester Convention Center is on land that was a Pike Bill building, and it was just all a part of progress. So there's stuff you can read about it in the book, but it's so his interesting guy and dynamic. John Derek Pike, his son, really took the business over and became John B. Pike and Son, and I'm going to say around the turn of the century, so around 1900, and was really at the helm, and it was prior to that, so that's a round number, but prior to that, or then took it really through the leadership of the business through, 2 world wars, the Depression, as well as the Industrial Revolution and the rise of Kodak and Xerox in Rochester specifically. And really created an interesting business around and capitalized, I think, on a lot of the success of it being an industry town during those days, as well as did a number of institutional projects and other things. He had two daughters, so Virginia and Sally Pike were his daughters. So Virginia, my grandmother, Virginia Pike Judson, married Tom Judson Sr., who my grandfather, and then Sally married a Farnham. Interesting, nice family, and they were so the Judson. That's where the Judson name got involved.
And died together, huh?
So
Two families.
Yeah, it was Judson's married in, really, and that's a story around the Judsons had been a long-term Rochester family, and there's some history there too. But so the Pikes, which were really Gen 2, going into Gen 3 that he married into, at that time, that was with the 2 daughters probably weren't going to run the business, which is generational of those times. But and then going forward, Tom Sr., my grandfather, who was an very interesting guy, I did know, was a real interesting Renaissance type guy. Had been through a lot of, I'll put it this way, he went to Yale undergrad. Prior to that, went to I think 10 other schools on his way. So interesting guy, heck of a boxer, I hear, and was just the kind of I knew my grandmother. She died when I was probably 6 or 7. So I remember her, but I didn't get to know her. And my grandfather died when I was in college, actually at Union. So and if great guy, never told the same story twice, kind of guy, interesting guy. And
it's funny because my grandfather used to tell the same stories over again.
Yeah. Well, Grandpa did a little better than that, but he was knew how to cook a steak, and he was cool. So that breaks into my father. So my father's one of 3 boys. He's the middle of 3 boys. So John, Tom, Tommy at the time, and Jay were the Judson boys that kind of came from Tom and Virginia Pike Judson's family. So, and that's a whole nother kettle of fish. But I will just say my father, well, all of them had great, interesting careers. We've lost my Uncle Jay, the youngest of a number of years ago, but Uncle John and Dad are still doing great and in their 80s. I'll speak mostly about Dad. Dad was I think he made a point of, he knew that he wanted to do the business and ran at it. And
because the other 2 I guess a different direction a little bit for a while.
Yeah, I'll talk as much as you want about Dad, but I'll just say he then really took the business over mid-70s. And at this point was really a regional builder, doing interesting big things. Had always John B. Pike and Son was, I think, one of the more reputable businesses and construction businesses, and Rochester, I like to think upstate New York, doing projects across upstate. And then Dad really took it to another level where he was traveling all over the country and even internationally into Canada with a number of different projects. Was really in a crazy momentum. His story really has 2 chapters, which was that early stage of growing, and then really ran into problems and had a couple really troubled projects that, long story short, went through a state of insolvency. It wasn't a bankruptcy, but he really came in on the business came in on itself, and he recapitalized and really started over. That turned the business from, he was one of 8 owners to a sole proprietor. But it was definitely like a phoenix rising from the fire type situation. That was, I have to say, for me as a kid, this would have been mid 80s. So, I was like probably 8 to 12 during these tough times, 8 to 10 where it was really bad. Was kind of oblivious. You don't even know, right? He was going through hell, and it was, so I'll fast forward as Pike, that went to then the Pike Company. The Pike Company, after 86, really started over and really continued to build on a lot of the same, I guess, values and things that we've always done. Some of the same talent, a lot of the talent left, and started recruiting new talent and building a new vision under Dad. So it's been that really, he was at the, I'll just say I get involved. Graduate. Well, I went to CEO. I went to president in 2011. I think CEO in 13, something like that. So that,
I guess that, do you want me to remind you of the numbers? I got it. I read the book.
Check my math, or check my dates. But I would say that
2015 was CEO, 2011 president. That's right.
That's right. So, and then we're
who's counted?
Yeah. So let's call that the last 10, 15 years I've been really running the business. And that's been a time of running it with Dad early to, as he's stepped back and I guess handed the keys over to my team and then my leadership, I guess we've been running the place. So we continue to be a construction business, and I think you'll probably ask me some more things, but that kind of gives the timeline.
That's an incredible story. So I got to go back really quick to, I guess World War I, Great Depression, World War II, and of course you weren't living at that point in time, but you know the history of this family business as well as anybody else. It's incredible. How important at that point in time, or not important at that time, were the rise of Xerox and Kodak and Bausch and Lomb? Was Was Pike the beneficiary of the rise of those businesses, or some of the other businesses that were kind of rising to support those entities?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that was a big part of our work. I think if you look, especially look post-war through into the 60s, 70s, and beyond. I mean, obviously the downturn of Kodak really started really in the 90s. It manifested in the 90s or all that. So yeah, it was obviously an industry town, and that was a big part of the work. So being able to set up and be be available to a ongoing concern that's got a campus, and they're doing projects, and that's becomes as close to an annuity as we would have in our business. It's so where you're able to create a relationship and do a good job over time on multiple projects. That's what you want, and that was a big thing. And there's a fun story of my great grandfather John D. This is a Prohibition story. So it was which was a tough time for the Whaley family and the Genesee Brewery.
Right.
And there's the short version of the story is they ended up not having the cash at the time to pay his fee, and he took his payment in stock and was able to then brag at telling the same story over and over, then brag every year that he got paid his fee every year. So, which is it's cool to know.
Was it in cash or was it in Jenny Light?
It was in stock, in Compass stock. So yeah. So hopefully you got some cases where as well, maybe here, so, I don't know. But it was there's fun stories like that, and it's I like to think I go into if you go into the locker room or the men's room right when you walk into CCR's main bar. Mm-hmm. You go into that bathroom and they've got the handicaps list on the it's from a year. I think let's say it's the 30s. So John D is listed with as terrible a handicap as you can have on the sheet. First job was would have been it would have been 92 or something like that. It was maybe 3, but it was. So I'm 16 or so at the time, and it was the first job was we cleaned up the high bay, and that took a long summer. It was a lot of sweeping, but also then
what was the high bay like?
So it's an indoor storage area for equipment.
Okay, good. Yeah, gotcha. Probably hot as heck up there.
I remember it being hot. It was, we had a good time. It was a great, beginning of a construction career, because, there's some fundamental things that anybody in any industry, but especially in construction. So, get there on time. So you wake up early. You're gonna, a typical shift would be 7 to 3:30. So get there, by 6:30, 6:45 and be ready to work at 7. Working with your hands, making a good hourly wage, and then getting done by 3:30 and having some time in the afternoon, but you're also wiped. I'm sure there were bad times and good times, but it was a great way for me to. It was really I had been mowing lawns and doing and working around farms around Victor, where I grew up, but it was so I'd had a number of kind of summer jobs, but it was really when I went to work at Pike, where I was thinking about having I had a job, and it was it's a great first job.
Can I ask you a really random question? But have you ever installed silt fencing?
I have.
I installed silk fencing one summer. I was working for Clark Patterson Lucene.
Okay.
When they were rebuilding the park down on Canandaigua Lake, right? Roseland, was it? It was Roseland, right? Roseland Park.
Yeah.
They were tearing it down, right? And then they were building all the condo complexes, stuff like that. I literally, among other things that I was doing down there, I dug trenches for silt fence for weeks.
They gave me ham
like by hand.
Right back.
Now, little did I know
that's called labor work. That's labor.
Yeah, little did I know that there's actually a backhoe that she could use to do it, but they weren't having me do that. They had me dig in the holes. Oh God, man, that was a tough job. But you know what it made me understand?
So what did you get from that?
I didn't want to ever do that again. I mean, there was some really cool stuff. I got exposed to engineering, and from a construction engineering perspective. So they were building a bridge down there. I got to kind of deal with concrete and different materials and stuff like that, which was awesome. But I knew I didn't want to put that silt fence in for the rest of my life. But anyhow,
Well, that's great that the construction industry served to motivate you into the.
well, I mean, work ethic. Everybody around me was working their tail off.
You're working your butt off. Yep.
And so I assume that, your exposure early on in your, youth and adulthood, your early adulthood, and that probably had a pretty lasting impression on you, work ethic, right? Like how important that is.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's no getting around being on time or not. There's no getting around, are you, how hard you're working when you're working for hourly and as a laborer, or if you're working as a carpenter. I mean, you're as a mason, there's a lot of great tradespeople that are out there doing all kinds of awesome work every day, and it's amazing what's getting done out there.
Yeah, it's really cool. So let's talk a little bit about that for a second. We'll pivot. So tell me about the size of Pike. How many employees do you have?
Sure.
And then I guess how many, relationships you have from a subcontracting perspective. I mean, because you're just not doing business locally here. You're doing business all over the country from, what I can tell, at least in the eastern half of the United States, Mississippi this way.
I would set it up to say, yeah, we're an upstate New York based business, and we think of our home turf being Tappan Zee Bridge to Niagara Falls. So it's upstate New York, and then we're really focusing on being, making those home games and being part of those communities. We're headquartered though in Rochester, and we've got, and then I would say, if that's 60% of our business, we have a pretty strong office, a very strong office building, really focused in the multifamily part of our business in Orlando, Florida. So that's also a good beachhead for us. But and then traveling for key accounts, and typically east of the Mississippi, Maine to Florida, but we break that rule for the right client here and there. At the end of the day, with traveling and working on the road, it is nice to be able to stay in your own zip code. Or I'm sorry, time zone, not zip.
Because you could get there same day.
It's less stress on the people, right? Honestly, to be, if they're still if they're 3 hours earlier than their family, I mean, that's that's stress. There's over time, those things add up. So, so you asked about the size of the business. We're doing about $750 million in revenue. Right. So that's top line. And then I would say the employee base is around 450 or 500, and then another 200 on top of that with our tradespeople. But the trades very much ebb and flow depending on the seasonality and frankly how busy we are with self-perform. We're really focused in types of clients. We really focus our efforts. I would say first and foremost, these aren't necessarily in order, but I would say 4 major areas, which would be manufacturing, technology, distribution, data center, that type of work. So those are typically a company that are, if they're privately held or if they're a publicly traded business, where we can come in and focus on that industry. Institutional is a big part of what we do. So that's healthcare, obviously higher ed. We're also very proud. Once in a while, we get to build a YMCA or a museum here and there, and there's other types of institutions that we work for. Developer-led projects, so it's a lot of multifamily, so a lot of apartment buildings, and whether that's market rate, affordable, senior, nonprofit, to name a few kind of type student housing type projects, but those are it's a big focus for us, and then public. So as we think about really our federal, state, municipal type level of client, we're enjoy some great relationships in those sectors in that sector as well. So so I guess that's kind of geography, types of clients, employment, revenue. How am I doing?
You're doing fantastic. Let me ask you a question about data center. I'm a IT guy, tech guy. A lot of data center investment these days. All you hear about on the TV or the radio or other podcasts is about CapEx being spent. I did Mag 7 and investment into artificial intelligence and power struggles or the need for additional power to fuel these data centers and so on and so forth. Like, how is that side of the business growing for you?
Let me put it this way. I'm going to talk about the industry and kind of stop short of talking about specific deals in that part of our business. So, but everything you just said is right on. We're seeing explosive CapEx expenditure and especially data center type projects. It's the big seven really throwing these huge bets in. The biggest constraint continues to be the power and getting the power to these places. But yeah, that's there. I mean, there's a substantial. It's just a huge bet. I mean, it really dwarfs any of those other markets, and it will clearly be a big part of our industry and just the economy for sure.
Cool. All right. Let's talk about, or maybe hopefully you could talk about this, but what's the coolest project that Pike's ever done, do you think? I mean, I saw in the book, because I read the book.
Which was your favorite?
Well, I'm a Disney guy. Yeah, that Disney shit, Epcot Center, like that's pretty cool. I mean,
that's your dinner buddy. He went. This was mid '80s, or early '80s. I'm sorry. And he went down and sold those projects and did very well. It was 2 of the pavilions down. It's in the book if you want to read about them. But yeah, that's a cool project.
What's your favorite?
Well, it's to ask me, it's like just children. I know, how dare you? But I
won't ask you to do that.
We've got all kinds of great projects. I mean, I would say one of the most. We just turned over a great project, which is the Tom TFJ Stadium at RIT. So that's I got to give that one some love right now. Wow, that's to be able to. Build this is the new lacrosse soccer stadium tied to the facility there, and it's amazing program. D3 programs at the highest level of D3 and state of the art facility. Really opening seasons this spring, and to have Dad's name on it and have it be something we build is that's probably that's the top of my brain right now. That's over my head.
Hey, that's a great one,
and it's obviously maybe not the biggest, but definitely something that's important to the. I mean, it's still a nice big job. So it's tough to pick projects, right? Because we've got all kinds of great.
Well, I think you said it well. I mean, they're like your babies, right? I mean, your children. It's really, really cool. I wanted to talk a little bit about that project because I know it's something that your father's very proud of.
Sure.
And you are very proud of. But I think it's representative of Pike's involvement to some extent in the community. The Pike family, the Judson families, and Pike, the greater Pike construction families, like, there's 450, 500 people that are all very involved as well in these community initiatives. Tell me a little bit about how you think about, your stewardship to the upstate New York, Rochester community. I mean, as a 5th generation business leader, right? I've got to imagine you think about that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I like to think that the enterprise, being Pike proper, and all of our people are authentically getting involved in the various communities they're in. I mean, we have a number of, especially a number of our institutional clients are nonprofits that are impacting the communities we serve, and that's not just in Rochester; it's across all of our footprint. And that is something that we spend a lot of time on, and we want to be, out there thinking about where we want to, what we're passionate about and where we want to plug in. I guess as owners of the business and executives of the business, we also want to support employees as they come up through and have, hey, this is a great idea, and that might be it might just be somebody's kid's Little League team, but it also might be somebody that's joined a board for a great, I don't know, like a Habitat for Humanity or whatever it might be, and we want to champion that because somebody's we're not putting a gun in anybody's head and saying go join a board.
Right.
That's somebody that's come up and said this is something that's important to me, and we definitely identify that as part of our culture, and that's something that we love to see, but we're not, that's not in the job description necessarily. So that's. I think in general, I would say for me, if you're asking me, so it's talking about the business, for me, it's definitely, I like to think, it's
just that, growing up with my parents, that's how I was raised. And I just finished, I'm still on the executive committee of the Rochester and Finger Lakes surrounding areas United Way. So I'm the immediate past chair currently after coming out of last year as a 2 years as chair. So I'm very proud of that work and being an active leader in and around the United Way in this area. I've also done a number of other, I'll just highlight that because that's a good fresh one and a great group. So, and then also get involved, whether it's not just charitable, but also, promoting industry. I'm the current chair of the AGC of New York, so the Associated General Contractors of New York. Just took the seat actually last month.
So that, congratulations.
That's
It's a big deal, right?
I mean, don't act like you're not impressed. I mean, I take it seriously, and I think it's important especially to our industry. But take it with a grain of salt. It's an industry board, and it's great people, and we're pushing. We represent both the vertical builders and the road builders, bridge and road builders across the state, and just a wonderful group of business owners and or executives that are out there pushing forward. And New York State's a tough place to do business, so pushing through.
Sure is.
I like it. We'll talk about that. I think of upstate New York and high ground and plenty of water. Where it's all 4 seasons, which I like, and got a great. You talk about institutional or industrial town to institutional town, which I think it's been more of what I've lived through. And then we'll see in this entrepreneurism that I think I see you do. I see all these great Rochester Bay businesses and across the upstate New York. So upstate New York's cool. It's just, taxes are high and it's tough to get things done in the state, but
All right, let's talk a little bit about working with Dad. So I bought this business back in 1999 with my father. It was an incredible experience. He is a serial entrepreneur, so he was involved in many different businesses along the way. We bought Bright, and then, shortly after that, he was kind of on to something else, and then something else again. Always sort of dipping the toes into Bright, but that's just the way he was, which I kind of had some challenges with at times because I was needing to focus on growing Bright and making sure that this business was successful for the greater Smith family. Yet he was kind of out doing his thing. That was my experience. I'm not saying that was your experience, but what was the experience like working with your dad?
Well, I first want to say, how cool your dad is. I love that guy. He's the most, just like you, such a wonderful person. Every time I see him, big smile, and clearly a stud athlete, but also just personable and lots of love for you. I'm reading LA. Working with Dad, it's been I from the beginning of my professional career. And before that, I guess I've always respected my father, both as just as a person. So I mean, he's a he's a Boy Scout kind of guy, very come up and is impressive. Did Ivy League guy. Went to all of my uncles and my father went to Ivy League schools. I changed that trend. I thought I had to reset that.
Yeah, the union, because they call it. There any Ivy?
They're all my backup plan. They were all my safety schools. I went to Union, right? Yeah. I wanted to.
Shout out to Union. Just connected in New York.
Let's go. What's our?
Hey, Brennan Smith. There we go.
That's right. What's our?
You're the Garnet Chargers now. My youngest goes to Union College as well, and I got my Union socks on today. If anybody can see that. But for Rufus, the Dutchman. We'll just refer to it.
Back in the 90s, yeah. So great. I had a great college experience. That's a whole other kettle of fish. Dad. So as a person, just as a great marriage with my mom. That was a huge example. All those things, and this is tying to the second thing. Just as a business person, so I've seen him through just him. I always back in the day with Dad, it's like, is he coming to this meeting in a 3-point or a 4-point stance? Like, how's he coming in? Is he, very much an integrity guy, but also a competitive, business person and tough, and competitive.
Tells you the way it is, doesn't he?
I like to, there's not a lot of, I like to think he's, especially maybe through age, he's this filter's changed a bit, but I think he's still quite the gentleman, right? But 100%. So able to, but yeah, not gonna beat around the bush, especially in business. So as a person, just integrity, and as a father, as a husband, I've got 3 kids. Thinking about the example I set and all that, and then as a business person, just I couldn't have asked for anybody better. So that is important to say as we've come through the business. Yes, there's been some stress at times. I think one of the things I did with Dad about 10 years into my working career, I said to Dad, I remember we were on a trip. It was a business seminar thing. I said, Dad, I really want to make this my career. I want to go after this. I'd like to make it, I'm going to make it for my life. And we made a deal with a handshake around what that would look like as it relates to control and things like that, which, and that was something that we executed then over the next 15 years or whatever it was.
Right.
And came out of that buy sell, or however we set it up to describe it, with just as much love and respect for him as a person and his respect for him as a business person. That doesn't mean we didn't have some tough moments,
right?
Where these are both, you talk about the business it's my life, it's his life. So
right.
What are we? So that love, that passion, that can lead to some rough edges at times. But at the end of the day, I look back on it and it's just, I've been so blessed to go through this with him. Now, then also him as a mentor, as that's kind of talking about him, that's talking about the business transition, just him and working with him. He was not somebody that was like, all right, come into the cup, you're on my hip, like we're going to walk around the job. And it was somewhat the opposite. It was like, get away from me, go in and do it, not like negative, but saying, hey, go be in the field.
That's right.
Go travel for the business. Go, working.
Which you did, because you worked every single layer up through the organization.
I've done almost all the jobs, the business. I know the jobs. I've been, a guy or a gal that's done, been a project manager for 15 years is better at than me. They better be.
Yeah, right.
But, you did that for 5 years.
Yeah, so you can appreciate what it takes.
I love that. So, yeah, that's part of, to me, coming up through. And so at the end of the day, it's been, I look back on it as, we're a tight family. My father and, I've worked with my father and my brother-in-law. That's a whole kettle of fish. But my brother, Mauricio, which is a hell of a story. We'll see if we go there. Is our COO.
Well, let's go there. Let's go right there. I mean, Bolivia. I mean, your sister, I think, is in the Peace Corps.
Bass, my sister's, her full name is Elizabeth. We call her Bass. So Bass went
to Bolivia, right?
I'm going to give you the short version because this is a long story. But his my sister went to Hamilton College.
Yep.
Another
Ivy League,
another hell of a school, and she was graduated and went into the Peace Corps. She had Spanish, fluent in Spanish. So just said, "Oh, send me anywhere, but I want to go somewhere where they speak Spanish." Ended up in Bolivia, really in the hills of Bolivia, in the middle of
what you can't read the Sunday. That's disappeared.
That's exactly that's the same turf.
Yeah.
And she was doing sanitation projects, working with tools, really, and out in these communities that didn't have septic or didn't have, and was installing septic to these remote villages. Amazing. Anyway, there. Shout out to RIT. The president of RIT at the time was introduced us to this Bolivian gal who came as a friend.
Right, Dr. Simone at the time.
Yeah, it was Dr. Simone.
What a great bit.
Yeah, and I appreciate you. I should shout out Dr. Simone. Amazing. And anyway, my sister got invited to her family's. She was like, your daughter's in the Peace Corps, and we had her to Thanksgiving, and she went to
some party, and they met my brother-in-law and my sister Mauricio, and it was very much love at first sight. And they said, boom. So the long version of the story would continue, but I will just say then they then found love and got married, and were going to live in Bolivia. And then it got bad, I believe, politically. So they got out of Bolivia and then came back to Rochester, and came back and plugged into, at the time, a subsidiary of Pike that Mauricio and my sister went and ran. They actually did a wonderful job fixing a project, a business that wasn't doing well, and said, we don't want to do this, but and then he jumped into the business proper. He's worked his way up to the business, and she graduated in 2000. This is 20, at least it's 20 plus years, 20. It's not 25 quite probably, but and has now worked his way up to the and really focusing in our P&L in our operations, and right in the center of that, which he's got it. And the other guy just got a shout out, and who's a guy you used to compete against, right? Bill Tian, our president of the business. So we the Weevilers. We've been working together 25 years, and so he's an equity partner in the business, and so between Bill, Mauricio, and I, we've really got a great team of I think people that are aligned in our values, as well as but very different skill sets, and it's been good, and I'm excited about that. And then we've got all kinds of additional talent throughout the ranks. But
yeah, incredibly talented group. You had a great group. Let's talk about that for a second. So you and I both been involved in these businesses for 26 plus years, right? Have been leading the business over various periods of time during that 26-year period of history. Something that I learned a few years into the job was that you need to surround yourself with great people. And obviously you have that in Mauricio and Bill. How have you thought about that as when you took over the reins from your father, right? Circa 2011, 2015, right? President to CEO. Like, how have you thought about surrounding yourself with people, and how do you, Bill and Mauricio and the rest of your leadership team, think about that? Because you have some amazing people that I've interacted with at Pike.
Well, us well. I mean, we've outsourced our security and IT to Brian.
Thank you for that. Plug Rufus.
Are been so far doing a great job. So and I'll have been doing a great job. So we've been surrounding myself with talent. As I worked through Pike and kind of I was very working up through the business, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I guess I'm running part of it, or then I'm running this part of it, and then it bigger and bigger, and then you're like, oh wait, I guess I'm running the whole thing. And you're thinking about the team around you. Time is useful, where you end up we've definitely gone through a transition from if I think about the last 25 years, per your question, where it went from dad's team to my team.
Yeah.
And I don't, when I say my team, I hate those words, because I feel like I like to think I'm part of that team.
Okay.
But there's certain things that you can go quick on, there's certain things that you can't. And because sometimes the business isn't ready to make the move, and sometimes the business has been very ready to make the move, and you just have to do it. So I can't just give like a checklist, but being surrounded with people that are clear on their accountability, clear on their clearly have the talent, buy in culturally as the value side, and I have all these things I say, but you want something. I like working with people that get things done. Once I'm done, ask a busy person to do it. Let's go. And, I like working with people, and it's not always ex-athletes. A lot of times it is. You competed at a very high level. I competed at D3 level, but it was, being an athlete has some, I'm hard coded in certain ways and certain things, but it's not just athletes. I like people that are competitive.
Right.
We're out there, playing in hopefully a fair fight, but we like to win.
Of course.
And then, I like people that pay attention to detail, and working with people that pay attention to detail. So
that's been fun to put that together. And you're always, I guess, it's America. Everybody gets to work where they want, and so people are, but hopefully creating a culture and a team that we can retain, and that everybody's bought in and running at things. So I think we've got that for sure. It's right now. I mean, I the ways that, why do I put I take a grain of salt, just I think because I'm superstitious. It's like, something's going to go wrong, right? But at the end of the day, we've really assembled an incredible team of people that are out there getting and doing the work and supporting those people that are getting and doing the work. And whether that's, on a marketing side of the client development, running operations, as well as a big, robust people process, risk management, and then the financial side. And of course, technology and driving, for me with our business, I guess I'll keep it high level, but we're a risk management business, and that we're managing that risk for, we're building buildings or whatever we're building for clients. And we want to work for clients that have multiple projects, hopefully in the future, that are a good, that pay their bills, right? Or that are a good credit. And then but then as important as those are kind of benchmark things, but what we're really after are clients where we could come in and be an extension of their team and provide value. And that, if we can do that, we can work our way up their supply chain and be more of a partner mindset than just uncommoditizing ourselves at the end of the day in a very commoditized type business, which is construction. We're also, and as that all ties to two other big things for us, which we're always thinking about, are our people, process, and applying technology. And I guess those are major investments for us at our level, and time commitments, and where we're focused.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about culture. Okay. Culture's so important to me for the last 26 years. I mean, it's like been paramount to me. I think that you really have to have an incredible place for people to come and work, right? One that is, free of the fear of failing, where you have this nurturing type of environment, yet you still have a culture of accountability, right? Like, I see a lot of similarities in the culture at Pike, in the culture at Bright. I see a lot of similarities in the way, you describe culture and talk about culture at Pike, and I talk about culture here. Can it kind of give me and the audience a sense of how you think about culture, and maybe even more importantly, like how you've molded the culture in the last, 15 plus years that you've been at the helm?
Sure. We're a multi-generational business that has been around for a while. So I never came to the table and said, all right, well, we're getting rid of all this. We're going to start over, and we're going to have a whole new set of values and all that. So I feel like what I've been is more the steward of a value system, core values, I guess, in business speak, that have definitely evolved. And that's grounded. I'll give a shout out to a couple of people, and one of them is definitely Dad. And I think probably his forefathers and mine, setting up certain parts of core values. And then we did a acquisition back, it's crazy, back at 2013 and ran into one of my key guys, business guys in my life, a guy named Andy Hislop, and they had a great set of written core values. And it was a big project for me at the time to go through that, and I guess try not to throw the baby out with the bathwater. But there was a lot of cohesion. So I felt coming through that, where my father was always somebody that, coming back to the accountability and setting up the place, where is somebody that has always been very entrepreneurial and willing to try things. He says things like, the law of holes, like if you're in a hole, stop digging, that kind of thing. But at the same time, try things. So that speaks to two sides of that, which is try things, but also manage the cost of risk, not the frequency. So try things, but those are classic Tom Judson lines. And then overlapping that with this Andy Hyslop guy came into my life and has been a huge part, still on our board and a big part of our business. And his approach was more of a focus, let's get really good at a couple things and run at that and be experts in that type of field. So I feel coming out of that and that whole process and where we've been living for the last decade at least, at a high level of where I guess begin with the end in mind is, we want to create a portfolio of focuses where when I talk about where we're focused, what that intrinsically talks about is where we're not, number one. And where when we are focused, we want to be, of course, a builder, and we want to be building excellent projects. They're safe. Their quality's there. They're on time. They're on budget. But and the communication's there, and you enjoy the experience. But we also want to add that layer of understanding your business. So our best healthcare leaders know healthcare. And you're on the board of Nebraska Regional. How many pages is the list of acronyms, right? It's a bit of another language, right? You're right. And that is just an example in healthcare, but in every industry, you either know it or you don't. You're either a trusted professional or you're not. Right. So we're working to find, the right mix of specialization as well as trying things and being and having a portfolio of focuses. So that's a big part of where we're running at. Maybe a bit of my thoughts around some of our special sauce. That's more strategic. As we think about culture, and what brings that out is, we start with leadership. We call it a professional consultant mindset, PCMB, which is professional consulting mindset and behaviors. That is our toolbox around leadership. We talk about ownership. So that's not necessarily owning stock in anything, but it's taking ownership. So building something like it's your own. Right. We talk about collaboration. Construction is a team sport. We're whether you're part of a team or running a group or whatever you might be doing for the business, or this isn't done on its own. And then candor, which is this is a tough business. It's a risk business, and we want people that know how to communicate. And the old construction analogy of, there's tickets in the drawer, meaning there's a whole bunch of costs that aren't being communicated because these tickets are in the drawer. Like, we need to put the skunk on the table, but we also need to mix that with proactive problem solving and being somebody that can, come to a situation, with your sleeves rolled up, all these analogies, running into the fire with a hose up the stairs with the hose on your shoulder, but then bringing solutions and driving that candor. So, PCMB, ownership, candor, collaboration. And then the last but not least thing we talk a lot about is authenticity. So that's being yourself, number one. We want people that, I guess it starts with individuality and being a good person and being but having the chops to having the technical understanding of what your job is, aligning hopefully with our core values, but being, we love storytellers. We want to, part of our culture is taught through that. I mean, a lot of the great stories from I remember aren't some of my peers when I was in construction, but it was the senior superintendent, right, who was talking about the way it used to be or whatever. I mean, and then this happened. So it was, coming through with the solution or whatever that story is. And a lot of the stories are just about people and about somebody being a character or something we overcame that was a tough situation, or or a time where we won something, and whatever it might be, or lost something. And, so that competitive thing comes out of, if we've left it all on the field, you move on. If you could have you could have worked harder on that, or you could have done, and you got outsmarted or something. Those are the ones that piss me off. Yeah. It's much easier for me to move on from something where I felt like at least I left it all out there.
But I gotta imagine, that doesn't happen very often, right?
I like to think of when we decide to go after something, we go after it, and or if we have a project, we're going to take it all the way through. We're going to treat it like it's our own. Yeah, that ownership side isn't just in building; it's the whole piece.
How often you get involved in projects or take a look at a project and like, no, this is not for Pike,
More than we say yes.
right?
It's got to be way more. I mean, and I don't mean that in any kind of like highfalutin thing. But it's just if we are going clients first, project second. So and there's room for us to be doing a one-off project for somebody that it makes sense, and we do that all the time as well. But we're really after a relationship or a partnership and clients that we can do multiple projects for over time. And we have X amount of resources. We have X amount of which can be our balance sheet, which has frankly not been our constraint. We're in a good place. It's we're in a good place, but we're also, it's not infinite. It's in our ability to put project teams together, not infinite. So while we're like I said, we're doing $750 million in revenue. It's that's made up of projects, and so we have a good capacity. But but we still think about that as it relates to, is it a strategic fit? Is the client fit? Or is the project, maybe it's a one-off project, but is it a strategic fit? And then if you spend a lot of time on client and project selection, and then can we win it for the right reason? So meaning, like, that's going to talk about price, but this can talk about how we develop that relationship with that client, how we came to the table when it was time to put together an RFP or put together a proposal in response to an RFP. How we interview, all those things that lead to hopefully a dub, right, and get a win.
Right.
And then if you've got the right client and you've got the right project with that client, you won it for the right reasons, for the right price. Then we're really focused on and purchasing. Running it. You asked about our supply chain. It's a crazy thing what we do. We're building things outside. Each one's different, and we reinvent our supply chain on every project. And we travel, and it's a little margin. Like, what the hell are we doing? But it's terrible business. Go do something else. Get an IT. But it's a great business. And then when we get to the field and it's go time, we're through the pre-con, and it's and the purchasing, it's setting it up to drive safety, quality, cost, schedule, communication, all those things.
I love your core values, and the one I think I love the most is just be authentic, and it's just you. Every time I interact with you, you're just your authentic self. I mean, you really truly are. What everybody is seeing here today is really this is Rufus. I mean, it's whether I see you in the podcast studio, in your office, somewhere socially, or just a random interaction. I mean, just on the street. I mean, this is you, and I think that authentic self is big part of you, and why it's a big part of Pike.
I would like more compliments. Keep this going.
Yeah,
more and more. No, thanks. I appreciate it.
No.
I don't have the capacity to have a lot of split personality or whatever. I am a man.
Yeah, I love that. I love that about you. Okay, let's talk a little bit about technology and how you and your team think about technology in what historically has been, people don't think about the construction industry is a technologically driven type of industry. But I think you're thinking about it much different than that.
Construction, if there was like a McKinsey report put out probably 10, 15 years ago, whenever it was talking about since the Industrial Revolution and how production's really, every industry has really been impacted by dramatic increases in productivity, and construction industry's flat. So now we're building things outside. We're reinventing our supply chain every time. We're doing it. There's a number of reasons why, but I do think as we're the next however many years, we will see some production increases as it relates to applying technology. And that could be our business technology side, how we're setting up our people with the right tools, I guess in the office, or as it relates to thinking about how we price and how we do pre-construction and how we manage construction, all the aspects of project management and all of the various hardwares and softwares we use, and staying secure in a crazy time.
that gets, crazier and crazier and all of the aspects of that. From a construction technology, and as we're applying, I'll just say two other places we're thinking about is kind of our equipment and how we, bringing the right, whether it's the right bulldozer to the situation or the right, 360 camera to track production. There's a number of really interesting technologies that are getting to the point where we can really operationalize them, and we'll hopefully transform the how we run the place and drive some at the end of the day, increase production, take some costs out of the process. I was talking to and then I was reading an article. I think it was the CEO of Walmart was saying there's probably a job where automation and AI won't change what I would thought of a job yet. It's basically every job starts to be and so far for us, it hasn't been any kind of layoff. But it has been people's roles have changed a bit, and I think there's more to come than that. But if you're a culture fit and you're talented and you're part of Pike, typically, whether it's a new role or it's a shift in a role, I mean, talent continues to melt into our business like warm butter into bread, right? I mean, we seem to, I'm very proud of how we've retained all of our culture fits. I mean, as many as we kept. So, and then I think we are leaders in BIM BDC and driving, effectively being the facilitator between the architect, engineer, and the drawings of the inspection drawings, and then our supply chain to get from the intent to the shop drawing side, and integrating that, clash detecting, all of that through 3D modeling, 4D implement the schedule, 5D put the cost in. So we're running at all of that, and that's nothing new. Those are somewhat table stakes in the businesses we're at, and just continuing to it's get the right people, people. So I mean, it's the good to great, right people on the bus in the right seats, and then surround that through. We spend some time on process in our business, and then if you get the right people in the right process, applying the technology. So we're all in.
Estimating.
Yeah,
is estimating a bear?
I'm a religious reviewer of estimates with the estimating.
Right.
We have a great group of people that are, at the end of the day, putting costs to specs and drawings, and you're doing that through your own internal, estimating of costs. That's you're looking at the quantities and then applying productions to that material costs. And whether you're doing that for things you're going to sub-perform or you're doing that to budget for things you're going to buy through a subcontractor, you're also working closely with all of the various subs that you're in the supply chain to, whether it's partnering early to kind of work through a constructability issue, or creating competition and finding the right qualified low bid, so we can pass that on to our client. There's a lot of science to it, but there's a lot of art. Then getting into the constructability of a project or thinking through kind of all whether the macro or micro constraints, workforce is a huge issue, especially.
Where's the biggest risk?
In construction?
Yeah.
In general?
Yeah, ours the biggest. I said, you talked to me about being in the risk management business earlier. Where's the biggest risk when you think?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, we sign a number of different contracts that all have different risks to them. But just to give you the answer is, that's what we're paid for, is that transfer of risk. I mean, if saying, all right, we want to go build this building, we're going to draw it and all that, but I'm running a IT business, or I'm running a school, or I'm running a hospital, it's not my core value, or it's not my core competence to build that. So we're going to outsource it. So we need that decision to have been made by a client to be in the place. And then that transfer of risk is saying, all right, well, this is the price.
Right, on time, on budget.
Yeah.
This is what I've got to spend, Rufus. Exactly. And I need it done by X day. And so that's really what you're managing at the end of the day, right?
So the big four risks
and I'm going to just speak to safety first, because I'm going to take it out of the algebra, because it's a non-starter to not be safe, and meaning you're always 100% running at a completely safe business, or a completely safe project, a business, but a project or a site or a ball, each, whatever it would be. And then as you're looking at a project, the three other big risks you're managing are quality, cost, schedule, and driving. And so a lot of our risk management processes are around driving those three things. Well, four, there's a stage you are, that's safety first, and driving those four things. So, and you'll have clients that might value their schedule over most of our clients don't want the quality. So let's say all of them, because depending on certain, frankly, the ones that don't value quality typically aren't within our strategy.
Yeah, it's personally not the client you're undertaking.
So so it's time is money, and thinking through those. So at the end of the day, those are the major risks we're running. I talked to you about our supply chain and how, that's a major risk that we're running in terms of that. I mean, we have a very,
it's complex, right?
So it's a very technical business that is very people first, forward. So you're, we're out there, in the elements, working through.
Artificial intelligence is never going to be able to do that.
I think AI will help with. You can say, all right, you feed it in, and you're going to maybe have a takeoff.
Quantify the risk for me.
But it's going to quantify the quantities for you. It's not necessarily going to quantify the risks. It can list there. It's really improving. There's a lot of good things.
Yes, sure.
So,
sure.
But it's in the office. I don't see the people being replaced. I do see like double entry and things like that going away, and there's some efficiencies in the field. I don't see, there are. I mean, Elon Musk is building a company on robots now, so we'll see what happens. You've got. What's happening with self-automated cars, which you think about, like, are there going to be cab drivers in 5 years or 10 years? I don't know. Right. As it relates, and those things will come into all industries, including construction. So big picture, but at the end of the day, I walk around our job sites and I see a big job where we've got 250 tradespeople on site out there working, making those connections. And we're doing more and more prefabricated, potentially, offsite, and then shipping it in and then connecting it. But I don't, you're still a beehive of a construction site. It's a people business.
Right. That's incredible. All right, let's switch gears just for a second here. Let's talk about, we've been talking a lot about work and business, and it's easy to kind of get caught up in your work. But what's Rufus Judson like to do in his free time? What do you like to do?
I like to, when I'm not, at Pike, I do enjoy golfing. I do enjoy, in the summer months, I do enjoy skiing. We're going to take a bit of a ski trip in February with the family. I'm sure I do enjoy a hike here and there. I don't get out and do that enough. I have a lot of time. I don't know. I'm a music guy. I do enjoy music, and I don't create music or play an instrument or sing, but I do consume quite a bit of it.
What'd you listen to on the way over here?
On the 90s station.
I love it. I love the station.
On
XM radio.
I think I had a little Cranberries on the way here. But it's just beep around. There's I have the XM, the first.
Sure.
My guy is if I will pick a favorite band, I won't pick a favorite client, but Tom Petty is my guy. Tom Petty, the Heartbreakers.
You fish?
I do like to fly fish. I do like to. I like to be outside. I'll say I do. I try to. I'm 50 in August, so trying to stay, keep active, and I try to get my workout done in the morning.
Do you have any daily routines? That's one of the other questions.
Daily routine. I'll give a shout out to Rob Tissa, 585 Fitness, which has been a great part. So I go and see him 3 times a week, depending on my schedule. So I like to do that in the morning. I end up playing racket sports where I get a little cardio. That's typically in the evening.
And then I always intend to do more cardio and more stretching that I don't seem to get to. But I'm working on it. My wife is the best. She's we're both very social. We're also very social, I'd say. We spend a lot of time with friends when we can, but she's a jock. I made a couple teams growing up or in through the school years, and maybe contributed. But she was a real stud. She was a very serious athlete. So now she's got that athlete mindset. She's great. So I have a wonderful. I say that in context just to say it. Love you, honey. But also, she's a great influence. Like to have somebody like that in the house. There's not a lot of. I don't really have a lot of excuses not to be active. So working on it.
Not sitting around.
These are good years. Want to continue to stay active.
I'm actually. I love to ski too. Right. We go out west skiing and raise a family of skiers and all that good stuff. And I love the 4 seasons. I love the winter, but I'm starting to get a little tired of this winter right now. It's been like below zero for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks on end.
It's cold.
Well, yeah.
I was actually supposed to go. My buddies invited me to go ski today. I was like, I'm doing a podcast.
I took you away for a kind of trip to Bristol.
It's not all your fault. You were part of the problem. Cool. I had that job I had to deal with too. So
yeah,
but Oswald.
Good. All right. Last question.
Yeah.
What's next?
Ooh. Well, I'm not in a moment where I'm saying this is time for a subject or a chapter change. I'm feeling on my skis, right? I feel great about what we're doing. So I took over as man. I mean, I've been running the business since, you'll check my dates, as
2011.
But as managing partner, it was 4 or 5 years ago, where that happened, and I'm now in control of the business as well as running it. So that's been there was a couple of years where we were working and do all kinds of, but I wasn't thinking too far ahead. I started rolling around in it, maybe it was like, but. As I think ahead, there's plenty to think about. We've got a generational business with some great young people that are too young to know if they want to do it yet or not. I want them to be.
Do you envision that?
Well, I mean, we have six candidates.
Yeah, right.
That's the other thing Dad did is he never said, "Roof, I want you to do this for me." He said, "This is an opportunity, and you can do this if you want, but do it for you." And I think he was maybe just wise, or also maybe a bit of self-preservation of that, but he was very clear on that right from the beginning. So
did Mom ever get involved in that conversation? Because Mom was the closer for me. Dad said, "Hey, come back and do this with me. Come back and do this with me." And then I was like, no. And then Mom came in, brought in the lefty closer. Yeah.
Mom never did any kind of like arm twisting that I remember. She was always a closer just in general. Just like I'm so happy to be her son and proud of that. I was working in New York City.
Early 2000s.
Yeah, it was 9/11 time. A lot of things were on there, but it was in business side, I was doing great. And there was a moment where Dad said, "Time for you to come back to plug into the main business."
Yeah.
I then came back, did my MBA at Simon, and did all that. And there were times where he said, "Hey, it's time to do this," but he never was like. So as I think about the next generation, I think very much about recruiting. We're all 6 talented people, aged 9 to 21, and they're all people I'd love to have in the business and try to show them that this would be a great option for them. But there's no. There's no,
not their destiny. It's up.
I hope it is, but I hope it is their destiny. But I'm not going to say, "Hey, this is." I plan to do it like Dad. Hey, don't do this for me. There's an opportunity, and I'd love to have you. Let's see how this goes. See where it takes us. But those chapters are ahead. But right now, as I think about what's next now, that's some of it. But those are further things away. I want to continue to. Hopefully be a part of a great team running a great construction company. We've got busy years ahead, it looks, and there's lots of things you can think about 10 years out or even 5, but I find if I'm get more than 3 years out, it's all bull crap anyway.
So we're trying to keep on with skis.
That's right. You're on them. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you're on your skis in here. You did get to go skiing today. So,
I know. Well, someday you'll owe me, but maybe we'll go skiing together.
yeah. Anytime you want. Maybe we should go out to Utah. Well, listen, I can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast. Hopefully you had some fun. I had a ton of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, you and I probably could have talked to another couple of hours. It's pretty easy to have a conversation with you. And I appreciate your transparency with me and the audience. And I know everybody's going to thoroughly enjoy it. So thank you for joining me on One Big Happy Business. Rufus Judson, CEO of Pike Construction.
We're cool. You made it fun, and this is nothing I like more than, I guess, talking about myself and Pike. So let's do it.
Thanks, Ruf. Cheers.